Don't look now, but Clemson has turned into Jim Harbaugh's Michigan of the last 6 or 7 years. Maybe not this year's Michigan team. This year's Michigan team looks a little different to me, but I'm not falling for the Michigan trick again. But man, Clemson. No more benefit of the doubt for Clemson. Clemson's horrible. Georgia completely broke Clemson. That first game has just completely mind-fucked mainly DJ Ukulele, but really the entire Clemson team, coaches, and fans. Clemson appears to be a dead team this year, just kind of waddling around, going through the motions, barely beating terrible teams. Last week's Georgia Tech game was one of the worst abominations offensively in the history of mankind when it comes to football. And Clemson's holding its own beer going, well, wait till you see us play NC State. 7-7 at halftime against an absolutely horrible NC State team who got boat raced by Mississippi State a few weeks ago, the worst team probably in the SEC West, probably the second or third worst team in the entire SEC, and Clemson's tied 7-7 with those duds at halftime. The DJ Ukulele has PTSD. The guy needs to go to a mental ward or something and get it worked out from the beating that Georgia put on him back in week 1. He may not ever be the same. That's just a fact. The DJ Ukulele just may never be the same. Clemson's offense is putrid. It's an embarrassment. It's a joke, and it's a disaster. And if you honestly want to know who is to blame for Clemson's lack of offense this year, I hear everybody crying about their offensive coordinator, Tony Elliott. I hate the same offensive coordinator they had last year when Trevor Lawrence put up 1,000,000 yards and the Ukulele threw for 800 yards in his 2 starts. But whatever about Tony Elliott. You want to cry about the ukulele? Cry about the ukulele. You know who's to blame for Clemson's offensive troubles? Dabo friggin' Swinney. That's right. Yabba dabba daboo! Dabo has this personal grudge and vendetta against the transfer portal. Now, I understand that there's lots of people, coaches included, who have some issues with the transfer portal and the way it works and how easy it is for players to go into the transfer portal and leave a program and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with having your issues with the transfer portal, but pretending like it doesn't exist is a problem. I mean, Dabo Swinney has publicly stated on multiple occasions that he has never and will never go into the transfer portal to get a player. Dabo has this idea that unless a player wants to play for him out of high school, then Dabo's not interested in him. There were a dozen or more offensive linemen in the transfer portal this offseason that are better than just about any offensive lineman Clemson has on its entire team. Definitely better than 2 or 3 that they have. It would have been an immediate upgrade for Clemson along the offensive line to go into the transfer portal. Never mind the running back situation. You done ran off Lynn J. Dixon, really the only guy you have with experience. And you're stuck with this Will Shipley. And I'm sorry, but the hype is overblown on Will Shipley, just like it always is in these circumstances. He is not the next Christian McCaffrey just because he's white. That's just absolutely ridiculous. The guy's an average running back at best from everything I've seen this year. Now, maybe if you'd have went into the portal and got some decent offensive linemen, he'd be having a little bit of a better year, but you didn't, so he's not. Georgia broke Clemson back in week 1, and just like Humpty Dumpty, it can't be put back together again. Not this season. Clemson's season is over, legitimately. I don't care if they go 11-1 and win the ACC title. If they somehow do that and get into the playoff, which I don't see how that's going to happen, they will get absolutely obliterated by whoever they play. It's just a fact. They're absolutely terrible. So you Tater fans, if you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at Dabo. I don't need the transfer portal. We're too good for the transfer portal. Alabama recruits like nothing we've ever seen. They've got something like 12 recruiting classes in a row in the top 3. It's just insane. Their leading receiver this year came from the transfer portal. Their leading tackler this year came from the transfer portal. Just sticking your head in the sand, burying your head in the sand like a one-legged ostrich, Dabo Swinney, and pretending the transfer portal doesn't exist, not working out for you. Not working out for the Tater, and that's honestly who's to blame. Texas A&M. Arkansas is good. I don't even really want to get on here and talk trash about Texas A&M, even though they're getting humiliated in the first half of this game against Arkansas 17-0. I watched Arkansas in that Texas game, and they looked good. I'm watching them now, and they look good. They've got a legitimate dual-threat quarterback who reminds me of Cam Newton. I'm not saying he's the next Cam Newton. I'm saying the way he's built and the way he plays reminds me of Cam Newton. But he can make some throws, and they've got an NFL wide receiver in that Burks on the outside. They've got some really fast running backs, and their defense is playing lights out against an admittedly not very good Texas A&M offense starting its backup quarterback after Haynes King went down a couple of weeks ago. But Texas A&M's lined up for a field goal here with 20 seconds to go to kick us up. It's going to be good. Texas A&M finally scores with 20 seconds to go until halftime, but they're trailing Arkansas 17-3. Georgia plays Arkansas next week. That's going to be a hell of a game. That's a noon game next week. Why they did that, I don't know. It's probably the best game of the week. Ole Miss and Alabama is a good one too next week, but I don't know why they put in Georgia, Arkansas at noon. That's going to be a hell of a game. Arkansas is a legit team. They're good on both lines of scrimmage. They've got a playmaker that can do things with his legs, and he's a downfield thrower, and they've got some receivers that can make plays, running backs that can run, and their defense is playing lights out today. Florida State, still dead, not coming back to life anytime soon. Defibrillator. Jesus could come. Look, you could rename Florida State Lazarus, and Jesus couldn't bring it back to life. That's how dead the Florida State football program is. It's just a complete disaster. Auburn is getting beat by Georgia State at home. Now, this is hilarious. Tennessee fans are loving this shit, aren't they? Georgia State, of course, beat Tennessee a couple of years ago. Now they're beating Auburn at Auburn. Now it's halfway through the second quarter. Is Auburn still sleeping from last week's Penn State loss? I don't know. I expect Auburn to come back and win this game in the second half, but still humiliating that you're losing this game halfway through the second quarter. You have 3 field goals. That's all Auburn has. They're losing 17-9. Auburn can only muster 3 field goals. Turns out Blow Dix ain't no good, which UncleLou been telling you that for 3 years. The only reason Blow Dix is even on the team or starting is because his daddy was a below-average quarterback for Auburn 25 years ago. Other than that, dude's just absolutely terrible. But anyway, man, rest in peace to the Taters. I don't know what to tell y'all. You have to feel bad for the Tater fans. They're absolutely horrible. Horrible. But we got some good games going. We'll see. I don't know if Texas A&M can make this thing a game or not. Michigan's up on Rutgers. I thought Rutgers might be able to play Michigan a little tougher than they have so far. Actually, I bet on Rutgers. Of course, I'm an idiot. I've never even seen a game. But I bet on Rutgers with 20 points, though, not to win the game. I took Rutgers plus 20. Michigan's leaning by a couple of touchdowns right now at halftime, so we'll see what ends up happening there. But there's your halftime report for these 3:30 games, man. Georgia broke Clemson. Just to wrap up here, Georgia broke Clemson. They can't be fixed this year. They're a terrible team. It's mostly Dabo Swinney's fault for ignoring the transfer portal. Arkansas, a good team. Now, you're going to hear people all week saying, Texas A&M's overrated. This is how the basic mind works of a college football fan, right? No one is good. No one in college football is good. A team only wins because the other team was terrible. That's it. You hear it all the time. For 8 months we were losing to Clemson. We beat Clemson. Clemson's terrible. Arkansas's got no chance against Texas A&M. Arkansas is up 17-3. Now they're going to tell you, Texas A&M, they're just terrible. NC State beats Clemson. Well, Clemson's just terrible. It's not that that's not a good win for NC State. Clemson's just terrible. This is how the basic mind works. I don't see how anybody's watching this Arkansas game doesn't think Arkansas is a good team. Arkansas is definitely a good team. Definitely a good team. A legitimate top 15 team. And we'll see. That's going to be a good game next week with Georgia. I think Georgia's probably a little bit better. Definitely more talented. We'll see game plan, coaching, how it goes next week. It helps to have the game at home in Athens for sure. It'd be a big game, but Arkansas has been impressed. You got to be impressed with how far Arkansas has come in 2 years under Sam Pittman. They were one of the worst teams in the Power 5. I mean, they went like 2 or 3 years where they only won a total of like 2 SEC games. Total. And now look at them. They done beat Texas. They done beat Texas A&M. Arkansas is Texas State champs at this point. Of course, Georgia, South Carolina State champs too. Humiliated Clemson and South Carolina without a problem. No problem to do that at all. But, yeah. Anyway, some good games on. Great games coming on tonight too. I'm going to live stream some tonight, starting at about 7 o'clock with the Tennessee-Florida game. You got some other good games on tonight, too. So, Michigan State and Nebraska, I think. Anyway, a couple of good ones on tonight. Oklahoma and West Virginia. So, I'll be live streaming around 7 o'clock tonight here on the channel. If you guys are home or whatever, and you're watching the games tonight, tune in here to the channel, and we'll watch the games and discuss together. All right. Have a good morning.